Um, the guitar, wow. I remember the first time I saw one. I was just immediately in love with it. I wanted to touch it, hold it, sleep with it, caress it. I remember, I have vivid memories of taking an old tennis racket from the garage and taking two pieces of shoestring and tying them together and tying it to it and jumping around on my bed with the tennis racket, throwing it up in the air, trying to make it be a guitar. But it had too many strings and they were going different ways and it didn't make any noise. So I finally convinced my parents to buy me one at about 14, 15 years old. And they said, let me backtrack a little bit. I had 4 older siblings, and they all got piano lessons, and none of them did anything with it. And so my parents were like, well, don't give Alberto piano lessons, and nobody's done anything with these piano lessons. And then I turn out the musician, so that says something. But they told me I had to take lessons if they were going to buy me a guitar. So drove me down to C Major Guitars, and they got me in there, and I started taking lessons from a fellow named Victor Rose. And I took lessons from him for a while, and I remember telling him when I walked in that just show me where everything's at, and then I'll go home and mess with that. Like, show me what this is called, show me how to do this. And so he showed me the chords, showed me scales and stuff like that. And it was great because I could just mess with that all day long, and I felt like I knew something. Oh, now I know something. And then I started taking lessons from Kurt Scott at C Major Guitars as well. And he took me in a whole nother way because Victor was real technical and like, this is the Dorian mode over these chords and everything. And I just didn't like that. And I remember Kurt, he told me, go home and go through all the records at your house, whether it's your parents' records or your brother's records, and find every song that has the name blues in the title of the song, and put them on a cassette and bring it to me. And so I did that. And it was from Roadhouse Blues to, it was jazz song. It was all these different songs that had blues in the title, so they were all blues-based. And so that just, the feeling came into my playing at that moment. And that's when I realized that, oh man, I was in love, Anyway, a little bit about this guitar. I've been building guitars for about 5 years now, 5 or 7 years. And I've had this vision of making it out of, when the Joyland closed, the roller coaster just had so many timbers and there's so much history there. So through Eric, and he knows Roger Nelson, we finally got permission to go out there and get some of the wood. So this is the prototype, the first one built out of the roller coaster wood from Joyland. And I just think it's great, And I'm donating it to the museum so you can come here and see it as well. And I made it like a 52 Telecaster, just because you can do, on a Telecaster, you can do every sound. You can get every sound. Like, you can get like jazzy stuff. Or you can get like country. It's just got every sound imaginable out of one pickup with magnets with wire wrapped around it and a piece of wood. It's just, I don't know. I could go on and on about it. But another thing I wanted to mention as well, as far as the guitar versus the piano. The guitar has a very awkward learning curve right at first, because the piano's just all nice. All the white ones are in a major scale, all the black ones are weird sounding, and okay, then you got these chords and these patterns. But to do something, for instance, there's a song by Stevie Wonder called You Are the Sunshine of My Life. And on the intro of it, it's got this climb. Right? On the piano, you're changing the way your fingers are to do that climb, and it's really complex. But on the guitar, you're just going, keeping the same shape and go. And it's doing those jumps, but your hand is holding the same shape. So there's a real, after you do that learning curve of learning those shapes, there's a real easy way to play stuff. Like, it's almost like you feel like you're a magician and you know a secret that the other musicians don't know, or the non-musicians don't know. Like you're almost fooling them. But anyway, another thing I wanted to mention as well was the A minor chord, and this is along that shape thing. My older brother did have an ovation, and he taught me the A minor chord before I went and took lessons. And I'd play it like this all the time, different rhythms. But, and then about a week later, he told me, just move those over here, and now you got an E major chord. Same shape, just moved over. And it was like, wow, right? From minor to major in just one little jump. Not, okay, now hold your fingers like this and go, bling, you know. So I'm going to play a little song that, because Kathy played Billy, I got to play some Billy. That incorporates both those chords. And we'll turn up the crazy knob, as Tom called it. That was Gloomy Sunday. Like I was saying earlier, the electric guitar, and a lot of people touched on this, is I'm a big fan of all genres of music, and going back to a certain era, electricity didn't exist. Or it existed, but we hadn't harnessed it. And so they would do just about anything to be heard, these guitar players. Building guitars completely out of metal with big giant resonator cones on them, so they would just be like clank, clank, clank. You could hear them over a trumpet player or over a drummer, you know. And they would have to play them accordingly too, really hard and lay into them. So I have a love affair with this blues musician named Charlie Patton, who was probably arguably the best at making a wooden box guitar, and he called it beating the box, because he would actually beat it like a drum. I mean, he was playing to these people, dancing to one man with an acoustic guitar. And they would go to these dances, and I mean, that was the entertainment. No microphone, no PA. And so he was having to do stuff like, for instance, he has a move, and this is an electric, but where he's slapping the guitar. So, like boom, but boom, but boom, but boom, and then it gets the rhythm going and the people dancing. And a lot of string snapping, which is pulling out on the string like that to make it just a little biter, like. You know, it's just got that. I love that. That is great. And turned up, it's even better, but we'll keep it low. I'm going to do one more song, and last night me and Tom were playing around after the gig, and I was going through my mental memory banks of songs I wrote in those first years as a teenager taking guitar lessons, and this one kind of came to mind. And this is, I'm going to be using a flat pick on this one.